Welcome to Truth with Consequences. Vince Russo, how are you doing today, man?
I am doing okay, Mr. Kuhn. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I always say this listening back, I always say it's been an interesting week, but I can't lie, Vince. It's been an interesting week. How's your week gone?
Yeah, no, it's been an interesting week, just all around. I mean, there's just a lot happening. I think this show, we're talking about a lot of things I never got into before, and that's what I really enjoy about the show. And, bro, I think that has a lot to do. I think that has everything to do with your interviewing skills. I really believe that, Matt. And today we're going to talk about something where, you know what, we may be on opposite sides of the fence. And I'm looking forward to it, bro, because I know with you, we can have a conversation. And I know with you, when it's over, no matter what's said, what we talked about, you and I are going to be able to shake hands and go into the next show. And that's, that's therapeutic for me. Let me put it to you that way.
And I think that's one thing I noticed the first time I ever interviewed you was that people didn't really come at you with respect. At the same time, I think that's a misconception people have about you, is that you don't come at them with respect. And I think it's just because part of it is, a false narrative that's put out there. But another part of it is a lot of people get their Vince Russo in bits and pieces. A tweet here, outtake from a sheet here, So this show really has given people an opportunity to see the Vince Russo that I talked to on the phone the first day we ever talked. And I get tweets, I get DMs, I get messages on Reddit, on the Observer boards all the time. I never liked Vince Russo before, but I think now I'm seeing him differently. And so I think we're changing some minds out here, Vince.
Well, Matt, I also have to tell you, like this past week, I was listening back to our show that we just did on, Goodbye, Miss McMahon, Hello, Mr. Turner. And, bro, I got to tell you, I think it's a combination of two things where, like, I'm listening to myself. And I got to tell you, Matt, there are two things that I hear that I could understand why people would not like me. And I hear it when I hear myself back. I'll tell you what those two things are. Number one, bro, I don't care what anybody says. There's somewhat of a discrimination against people on the East Coast in New York. I honestly believe that, bro. I'm saying that based on all my years in the wrestling business. I can't hide the fact that I'm from New York. I can't hide the fact that I was born and raised on Long Island, and this is how we are.
Vince, the secret's out. Okay, you're
the secret's out.
Definitely from Long Island.
Here's the second thing, bro. Here's the second thing, and I don't think people like this, Matt. Matt, I'm very confident. I'm not cocky. I'm not arrogant. I'm not conceited. I'm not any of those things, but I am very confident in my ability and the things I say. So, the combination of that New York arrogance, I just think that's going to turn a lot of people off to not even listen to what I have to say.
I agree. I think maybe 40% of the criticisms I hear about Vince Russo have to do with diction, accent, and words you choose to use. I'm not as bought into you that it's a geographical bias, as Dutch Mantel would call it, but I do believe there's something there because people say, I got a DM on Facebook, actually, that said, my God, the bros kill me. You can't do anything about the way someone talks. It's not like you're pretending to say bro. I mean, that's just who you are. So when you start talking about the way someone talks, you no longer dislike them for what they do. You dislike them for who they are. And I think that's wrong.
That's a good point, Matt. I mean, I am who I am. I mean, this is it. I mean, this is what you get. And like I said, just listening to myself, I can hear why a lot of people might say, "Oh, he's full of shit." No, bro, I'm not full of shit. I'm just being honest, and this is me.
So we are going to do a show today on the history of you and the animus with the wrestling journalists, as I call it, the dirt sheet writers, as you would call it. And a good segue into that is a show you do on Realm. We'll talk about it today on Russo's brand, Castrating the Marks. Castrating the Marks is your most popular show. It's the show that was getting hundreds of thousands of downloads on Podcast One before you decided to go to Realm. Tell us a little bit about why you came up with Castrating the Marks and what you do on the show.
Well, Matt, before we get to that, I got to turn the tables on you a little bit, bro. I'm going to be the host now. I'm going to ask you to lay down on my couch.
Okay, here we go.
Lay down on my couch, because as this show goes on, we organically learn things about each other.
Sure. Okay.
We've got to talk about the term mark, which I'm sure is going to come into play today. So I think it's important that we set the groundwork.
We might as well just get this out of the way. So,
because this word drives you nuts.
It doesn't make me happy. And I've heard you explain it before, but go ahead and explain it one more time to the people out there, your version of the word mark.
Let me explain to you what a mark, what is supposed to be the true definition of a mark, but what is my definition of a mark? They're two different things. Guys, what a mark is it goes back to the carny days. Bro, you know, you go to a carnival, they have all these carnival games. Okay, bro? Well, if one guy goes to one of the carnival games, he's trying to shoot the basketball in the hoop. Okay, bro? And the guy is there and there and there, and the guy drops about $50 and he wins the little stuffed toy for his girlfriend, but he dropped $50 on the game. In the old days, bro, when a guy would come to the game and spend a lot of money, the guy running the booth would literally put chalk on his hand and slap the guy on the back. He would mark the guy. So when the guy walked through the rest of the carnival, the other people at the various booths would see that mark on the guy's back and know we can get this guy for a lot of money. Okay, bro? So that's the true meaning of the word mark. Okay, now let's translate that into entertainment. Okay, bro, regardless of what you're a mark for, you could be a mark for a baseball team. You could be a mark for a musician. You know, Matt's in the music business. You could be a mark for wrestling. You could be a mark for NASCAR. You could be a mark for a million different things. Okay, what that translates to is you drop a lot of money on something. Okay, bro, look behind me. I've got 1,500 albums. I am a mark for albums. I am an absolute mark for albums. I drop a lot of money on albums. So that's how you translate now the carny into modern day when you support something and you spend a lot of money on it. Now, let me make myself clear. I don't have an issue with people in the wrestling business dropping a ton of money on whatever they want. I don't have a problem with them buying belts. I don't have a problem with them, paying ridiculous amounts of money to go to like a WrestleMania. I don't have money to, buying 20, 30 t-shirts. Bro, I have no problem with you dropping exorbitant amount of money on something you enjoy. I have no problem with that, bro. I got no issue. If that makes you happy, bro, great. It's your money. You do whatever you want with your money. I got no issue with that. That's not what the word mark means to me. Bro, somebody wants to pay $5,000 for a WrestleMania trip and that's going to make them happy. Go spend the $5,000. Like, serious, it's your money. You work for that money. Just like I want to spend money on records. Here's Vince Russo's definition of mark. When Vince Russo uses the word mark, here's my definition. My definition is when you cross the line of fandom. Okay, bro, there's fandom and then there's obsession, obsessive behavior. Bro, when you're eating, sleeping, drinking, professional wrestling, and it's all that you're thinking about to the point of whether you realize it or not, you've convinced yourself that this shit is real. And Matt, you bring up castrating the marks. Bro, when you hear that show week after week after week, and you hear the same guys on that show, bro, you can hear these guys have convinced themselves that this shit is real. To me, I don't think that's healthy. I think that's dangerous when you become obsessed about anything. And more importantly, bro, if you're putting that much attention on professional wrestling, you are probably missing the things in your life that are important. So when I do castrating the marks, bro, I'm trying to point that out to these people. I'm trying to tell the Meltzes and the Kellers and all, guys, it's freaking wrestling. It's wrestling, guys. I know these people are married. I know these people have children. I know these people have families. Guys, it's freaking wrestling. And if you're putting this much attention on wrestling, bro, I guarantee you're neglecting your children. You're neglecting your wife. You're neglecting the things in your life that are really important. That's what I'm saying. And to add to that, Matt, and then I'll let you go. I know I'm going on a big soliloquy here, and that's a big word for me. Matt, here's the problem. They get offended by the word because they know I'm right. That's why they get offended by it. Bro, if somebody said to me tomorrow, Vince, you are the biggest album mark on the planet. Yeah, bro, I am. Okay, I am. I'm 100% an album mark. I spend a lot of money on albums, right? Vince, you're a Kiss mark. You're a Howard Stern mark. Yes, I am a Howard Stern mark. Bro, I sit here every night when everybody else is in bed and I'm watching every Stern show on YouTube. I am a Howard Stern mark. But these guys get offended by the term because they want to be looked at as these professionals and these journalists. And bro, if that's what you want to be looked at, then act that way. When you act like a super fan, I'm gonna call you a freaking mark. Professionals, journalists don't do the things that these guys do. They don't, bro. So if you want to be a professional, if you want to be a journalist, act like one, and I will call you that. If you're acting like a supersized fan, I'm going to call you out on it. And they get offended, Matt, because they know I'm right.
So there's quite a few things there, and I'm glad you got that out, and I think that's the best I've ever heard you explain it. But there's a few things there. So the first is, how would anybody know you're not calling them a sucker? Because that's what the initial thing is. Just because you've changed it in your mind doesn't mean they don't take it like that. And especially the thing that I have a problem with is when your fans call other people marks, call other fans marks, because you know wrestlers and I know wrestlers. And I know if one fan is sitting with wrestlers and they say that fan is such a mark, you know what the response is going to be. It's one thing to call yourself something. It's another thing to call somebody else something. So when you say I'm a mark for Rihanna and I'm a mark for Howard Stern, it's fine. You can call yourself that. But when you label somebody else something in the context of professional wrestling, in the context of history, means sucker, rube, someone who's been fooled, it is offensive. Could you see that?
Matt, that's where we're going to have the disagreement. Because I don't look at it as sucker. I don't look at it as sucker. Like, we can go right back to the Carney days. That guy at the carnival spending $50 at every booth, he's doing it because that's what he enjoys. I do not call it sucker. Sucker does not enter my mind. You are spending money on something you enjoy. So like when I say in that context, bro, Matt, from the bottom of my heart, I don't think it's derogatory at all.
But
I really don't.
If somebody thinks what you're saying about them is derogatory, isn't part of words, language, not just what you intended to be, but how it's perceived by them?
No, because they're perceiving it incorrectly. When we go back to the origins of what the word mark means, the word mark means that this guy drops a lot of money.
So Bruce Mitchell would agree with you. I've talked to Bruce Mitchell about this term, and he says a mark is pure and simple a paying customer. That's what he believes.
Yes. So, and you earn your money, bro. Whatever you want to spend your money on is up to you.
So let's talk about the writers a little bit. With the term mark, Dave Meltzer makes a living doing it. Wade Keller makes a good living doing it. Bruce Mitchell is a teacher who also makes money and does it for a living as far as being a writer of wrestling. How are these people marks? It sounds like the only thing that makes them marks is that they have bought into a line of thinking that you don't agree with.
Because they're not being honest with who they really are. Matt, I can tomorrow, bro, because I've been schooled in this for 50 years. I tomorrow can do a show, a podcast on Major League Baseball. I could do one tomorrow, okay? But I would know from the get-go and make it clear, bro, I've never been in the professional baseball business. I've never been in a professional team's locker room. I've not been associated with any professional baseball teams. Therefore, I am doing this show literally as a super fan. That's who I am, bro. That's my background. And even though I may be making money from this show, at the end of the day, I do not have the credentials to back me up as a professional. I am a fan who loves this and has been following this for years. When you say that about these guys, they look at that as an insult. No, bro, it's not an insult. It's reality. And I don't know why you have such a problem saying that. If you said that, bro, there would be no issue.
You said to me once, and Pete, we really should release the text messages you and I have back and forth because they're pretty fascinating sometimes, about Alvarez. We were talking about Alvarez once, and we were talking about his professional wrestling credentials, you know? And I've heard you say before, if you're not in the business, you've never been in the ring, and then when Alvarez comes, and he has been in the ring a lot and recently, and he said, and you said to me, the difference is when you make your living doing it.
Yeah.
So Meltzer makes his living doing it, and he has for a long time. How is he less credentialed than a Peter Gammons, you know, or a Mike Lupica?
Because Matt, I can do a baseball podcast and make my living off of that. Okay, but that doesn't mean I'm a professional. That's not what I can do a show about anything and make money off of it. It doesn't mean I'm a professional.
So what separates Meltzer and Keller from the Mike Lupicas and the Peter Gammons?
Because they have access. They have access. These guys don't have. Bro, if you don't have access to if you're a wrestling journalist and you don't have access to the WWE, then you're just like everybody else.
There's press conferences with Triple H where these guys are in there and Triple H calls on them, though. Like, they're treated like that. Also,
are they allowed in locker rooms?
We're talking about.
Are they allowed, Matt? Are they allowed in locker rooms? Do they interview Vince McMahon? Does Dave Meltzer have a microphone and he's interviewing Vince McMahon?
You're judging professional wrestling like other sports, and professional wrestling is very different. They have this omerta, the secret code. When Meltzer and Keller started reporting on the real happenings behind them, you know the biggest issue they had, the wrestlers in the wrestling world, the Pritchards, the not so much Shivani's, the Pritchards and the Cornettes had with these writers was that they were telling our secrets. It's different. It's not like in baseball it was a secret how to get a triple.
Not today, Matt. Matt, not today. But there are no secrets. A guy like Sam Roberts, He's allowed to talk to WWE talent. I consider him legit. He's talking to these people.
But you know there's a rule set if you're leaded. You know that the WWE, you can't go to the WWE and say the word Chris Benoit. Like, you cannot say the word Chris Benoit and ever get access again. In baseball, in Major League Baseball, you can say Kurt Flood. There's no topics that will get you banned forever. You know the deal. I mean, you have to play ball to work with them.
Okay, but Matt, it's a combination of they don't have access. They they talk to nobody on the record. Mike Lupica isn't going to say, "Oh, I heard from an unnamed baseball player." Mike Lupica is going to say who it is. So they never mention a name, which means they do not have direct access to any of these guys. And also, it's the way, like I said earlier, Matt. If you want to be perceived a certain way, then, bro, you've got to carry yourself in that manner. And that's not what these guys do. Bro, Mike Lupica doesn't make a living out of trying to discredit the Brian Cashman.
I think we made our points with the previous subjects as far as you think if they don't have access, then they're not journalists. I think it's a different situation. So we're going to see that differently, but let's move on to something else. Real quick before we get started, I hope no one's tuning out. I hope people are interested in this. Please tweet us at
I
Russo
don't think anybody
TWC.
But Matt, listen, I'm telling you, bro, if you're tuning out of this, you don't know good, solid conversations, bro, because this has been going on since the beginning of time. This isn't something new, bro. Dirt sheet writers versus people inside of the business. This has been going on. I know that I've been involved in this for the last 27 years.
Okay, so let's do something else now. This might get well.
And I'm wearing my Russo Club t-shirt, man.
Make sure to your Russo Club t-shirt. Make sure you get it at shirtsoftruth.com. I'm wearing my Russo Coon 2020 shirt. Dwayne Gilbert saw this shirt this weekend and asked me if it was a MAGA shirt. I don't think his eyesight's very good. But let's get to one other thing.
And now I got to ask myself, how many people are really going to vote for me if you're my vice president, Matt?
So here's the deal with that, though, right? So with the president is kind of the charismatic guy out front. The vice president either serves like a Joe Biden, where you're like, okay, everything's going to be fine because Joe Biden's there. Or he appeals to a certain base like Sarah Palin did, right? For John McCain that said, all you guys on this side, don't worry about McCain being 2 in the second. We got Palin they represent. So I'm there to offset a little bit of that. I think it works. Let's get to one thing. It's something you said that people object to. And myself, when I first met you and talked to you, I brought this up. You think they thinks wrestling is real. And
yes.
I'm going to... Okay, so I've been on Wade Keller's show several times. I've talked to him.
He's the worst. The worst. He's the worst.
I know he drives
Listen to my show. Listen to my show. You can hear it. Listen to let me get the plug in here, Matt. Listen to Castrating the Marks on the Realm Network. Go to russosbrand.com. Listen to Wade Keller every single week. And then tell me that you don't think the guy believes wrestling is real.
Or do that first, and then maybe if you feel like it, you can go to Pro Wrestling Torch and listen to Wade and, go VIP, all that good stuff. I've been a VIP member for a long time, and I will say this about these 4 guys in particular, okay?
What 4 are we talking about? Clarify it.
The 4 in the picture, Bruce Mitchell, Wade Keller, Dave Meltzer, and Brian Alvarez. So
are you talking about the picture where they're wearing Vince Russo t-shirts?
So here's the best part about that, Vince, right?
Yeah.
I am right on the right when they took that picture. I am literally sitting with them, and I took a picture with them right after that. It was in the lobby at the Chicago Schonenberg Hotel at StarCast. But it relates to StarCast, what I'm about to say. So when I went to All In, okay, I was in a suite. Sitting right near us, next to us, in this suite, was 4 guys. Mitchell, Keller, Alvarez, and Meltzer. Mitchell and Keller sitting next to each other, kind of talking as the show goes on. Alvarez had his eyes locked. I don't even think he looked at his phone. Meltzer is up top watching with the computer. The show ends, okay? And we're all in an elevator together. And you would have hated it, but for Matthew and I, it was kind of cool. It was basically like a show. It was like a Meltzer show in the elevator, and Alvarez and Mitchell talking, and Keller, they're all talking about the show. Not one of them said anything except how they thought the matches were received, how good they thought the matches were. Nothing was about anything other than how they present themselves, which is kind of people who analyze and know about wrestling. I didn't hear anything that relayed the fact that they thought it was real.
That you need to listen to my show then. Listen to Castrating and Markstead. Listen to how Wade Keller cuts everybody's promo for them. Like literally, like this shit is really never mentions there's a writer, never mentions creative, never mentions producers. Like literally, this shit is real, and this is what these people are saying, and this is what they should be saying.
So I'm laughing because it is funny the way that you say it, but it's actually not funny too because the way that you're misrepresented, you're misrepresented. By Meltzer publicly, by others publicly, by some privately. That's really not how Wade talks. Like these clips that they send you that you can make fun of as standalone clips, Wade is always talking about creating the best experience for the fan. That's what he's talking about. He's also talking about business. So when he's
how could he be talking about that when he's anti-Vince Russo? That was the best experience for the fan, but that's the guy he's always burying. So that right there is a contradiction.
Now that is what it comes down to for you. I do get that, okay? I get that in your mind, since they don't like and appreciate and they discredit you and they say bad things about you, that takes away their validity. But I'm telling you, when I'm on Wade's show, it's a lot of business. It's a lot of how many people were there. And when we talk about those promos that you love to talk about, like, why didn't he say this? He's thinking of it's a lot like what you would do. What would create a better product? Like the criticisms Wade Keller has of the product are identical to the ones you have. They're identical.
Man, I gotta stop you for a second, sure. Man. Please. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. Okay. Wade Keller hates everything with these guys is hatred towards me. He calls me things that I absolutely am not. I have reached out to him to let's discuss this privately. He refuses to get back to me. Let's be honest, bro, for the casual wrestling fan. Bro, when you're doing a show and every week you're doing the in-rings and you're changing your voice to Ronda Rousey's voice and then Shawn Michaels' voice and what that person should be saying. Matt, I'm sorry, bro. You're coming across as the biggest mark on the planet. And I'm sitting there and I'm saying, why is a guy almost in his 50s? Why is he doing this? Like, this is something out of a Christopher Guest movie. If Christopher Guest were to do a parody about wrestling, this would be part of the movie. Bro, that's what they do, Matt. And that's how. Now, I do not hate Wade Keller. I do not dislike Wade Keller, but I find that very entertaining.
First of all,
because it's not normal behavior.
First of all, I want to license
50-year-old men, bro, are not sitting around cutting how the promos should be. Nobody's doing that, Matt.
First of all, I'd like to license the Christopher Guest type wrestling movie to be written by Matt Kuhn and Vince Russo. As far as the criticism of how, and we'll stick to Wade just for a second, of what Wade says, out of context, it sounds like that. I think if you listen to an entire show, you might feel differently. But let's get to the other thing you said, which I think is the crux of the matter. He doesn't like you, or I.
Here's what I don't understand. Here's the difference between me and all these guys.
Okay.
They hate me. I don't hate them. I don't hate them. Like when Bruce Mitchell, I know you and Bruce Mitchell are good buddies.
Right.
When he says, "Oh, I've got this smoking gun," what he's basically saying is, I want to ruin the life of Vince Russo. There is a hatred with these guys. Bro, I don't hate these guys. I think what they do is funny. And I handle it in an entertaining way where it's funny. There's zero hatred, Matt.
Once again, we can talk about what is real and what comes across, right? So when I heard Castrating the Marks the first time, I thought you hated these guys. And I thought it was a bad look. And I was offended. Like, not as a wrestling fan, but of the insinuations, and this is a criticism. This is something that stuck to you. And this is something that hurt you with Cody, not implying, but saying that if you like wrestling like this, you're either gay or you are in the closet. I want to say this before you respond. There was something in there that when you said this is not normal, I think that was completely out of context. I think that's totally misused against you. I heard the freaking show, and you never said being gay was not normal. You said, like you said it earlier today, it's not normal behavior to act like that in a fan. That's your opinion. So anyone who says, like Bix and Span tagged in an article that said, Vince Russo said this about these guys must be gay, and then he said this is not normal. That's total bullshit. That didn't happen. But I can see why people would be offended when you say they like Finn Balor's abs, so they must be gay.
What I've said is, bro, I have been to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds fan participation events. Okay, bro. I even been to a NASCAR race. I've been with Sparkplug, Bob Holly. He brought me to. I sat in the pit. I thought it was cool. I'm not a NASCAR guy, but I've been around NASCAR fans. Is what I'm saying. I've been to every concert of anybody you can imagine. I just went to see Ozzy. I've seen every sport live. I went to see the Bulls when they were at the height of their career with Bret Hart, by the way. Pippen, Jordan, Rodman. Okay, bro.
Oh, you saw that team?
I saw that team with Bret. It was a pay-per-view and it was in Chicago. I went to see that team play. Bro, I've seen the greatest baseball players play. I've seen Willie Mays play. I went to games. I saw Willie play. What I said, Matt, was I never saw male fans in any fan participated event I've ever been to react to other male performers this way. That's what I said. What does that have to do with being a homophobe, not liking homosexuals, you're gay? That has nothing to do with any of that. I said I've never seen a male base react to a football player that way. I've never seen heavy metal guys react to, Ozzy that way. That behavior, the way a section of fans relate to these male wrestlers is not of the norm. That's got zero to do with me being a freaking homophobe. I've not seen it in anything else but wrestling, Matt.
So you come from a tradition of Howard Stern, right? And also Seinfeld. 20 years ago, the funniest joke in the world was, I'm not gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that, right? But times have changed. And I think doing that on the first couple shows of, they must be gay, not that there's anything wrong with it. What we found out is that as we get older, as time moves around, language needs to change. I don't believe you're a homophobe, or else I wouldn't work with you. I think it's a ridiculous notion, but just to put it out there, you don't have any disrespect or any dislike for any homosexuals based on homosexuality. That's ridiculous, right?
Matt, I have a transgender who hosts the show on the Vince Russo network, and I find her extremely entertaining, and that's why she's on there. She's entertaining, she's colorful, she's a character, and I love the crap out of her. And I could care less. It has no bearing on me whatsoever, but I am not going to change the fact I have not seen any other male-dominated audience react to the male performer in the way wrestling fans do. I'm not going to – that's a fact.
But here's the issue. Are you implying there's something wrong with that? Like, it is wrestling. Wrestling's weird. I said it before we went on the air. I say it to you all the time. I say it to Robbie, man, wrestling's fucking weird. And I mean the world of it. But is there something wrong with that? Like,
yes, here's what's wrong with it. This is what's wrong with it. We're getting right back to the Mark term. Here's what's wrong with it. Obsession. If you're obsessed with anything, there is something wrong with that. Okay, bro, I went to a KISS convention. Okay, I went to a KISS convention as a normal fan. There were people at the KISS convention that were obsessed with KISS. That's not normal. There is something wrong with that when you become obsessed. Bro, it could be a girlfriend. You could be obsessed with a girl. When you become obsessed with something, in my opinion, there is something wrong with that. And there are clearly signs here of obsessive behavior.
I don't want to belabor the gay thing, but one person did bring up this subject. So I just want to say that when I was working on a play, I was a music director. The director once said, hey, why don't you use an acoustic bass on this? And I said, man, I don't use acoustic basses. They're gay. It was a word that just came out of my mouth because it was a word we used very casually when I was a kid. The director goes, hey. And I look at him and he was hurt. He was pissed off, but he was hurt. If you use the word cocksucker, that is an insult because you're saying being gay is less than. Maybe in saying that people are secretly gay, we insinuate that it's less than, and it's hurtful to some people.
Well, no, Matt. They insinuate that. They insinuate that, bro. I mean, they insinuate that, and let's.
Damn it, we were so close.
No, we're not going to be close. Let's be honest here. You go on the Wade Keller show, okay, bro? Let's be honest here, okay, bro?
Okay.
Wade Keller does not like Vince Russo. Okay, period, end of story. So when Vince Russo makes a statement like that, that's where Wade Keller's going to go. Wade Keller is going to insinuate that because that is more arsenal. That's more bullets in his gun. That is not justifiable, bro, whatsoever.
That's fair.
Whatsoever.
That's fair.
If he had a ball sack, let's be honest with it, Matt. If he had a ball sack to get back to me and talk to me like a rational human being, then him and I would have this discussion.
And that's fair that you say that he's seeing you through the prism of his dislike of you.
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
That's fair. And
exactly.
I think it's fair that you see him.
Matt, I worked with homosexuals. I worked with lesbians. A big part of my career. Bro, I worked, Matt, believe this or not.
Well,
you're not even going to believe it.
You can't work in entertainment without,
Matt, I worked for an indie company. You ready for this, Matt? An indie company. Not one, but two transgenders. An indie company. Bro, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't even understand, like, what would I have against a transgender? Bro, it's your life. If you were born and you're a man and you think you're a woman and you want to go have a sex change operation, how does that affect me? If you were born a man and you like other man, a woman and you like other woman, how does that affect me? Bro, it's more bullets in their gun. Anything they could take of anything I say out of context and paint this picture of Vince Russo, they're going to do this, which gets right back to the why they're not journalists. Journalists don't do that. You're going to sit there telling me people are going to turn this show off, Matt?
I don't think so. These days, the political landscape is divided. And it's like you and I will never talk politics. I would never talk politics with Jim Cornette or Dutch Mantell or anybody because splitting off your audience is just stupid because in these days we don't respect other people's political opinions. So the minute somebody says, I love Trump, half the people tune out. If somebody says, I hate Trump, the other half people tune out. You have no audience left. But in today's day and age, the media and the president get into it a lot. Jim Acosta was kicked out of of a press conference and his credentials were taken away by President Trump because President Trump felt he wasn't fair. A lot of people think that was not called for. A lot of people think Jim Acosta is rogue and doing his own thing. I guess my question is, isn't that proof that the journalist thing is in the eye of the beholder? Meaning if the president of the United States can argue about who's a journalist or not and can be wrong or right, isn't it possible that Vince Russo is wrong or right about who's a journalist?
Matt, I've got a degree in journalism. Okay, bro. So I was taught what a journalist does and you know how a journalist should conduct themselves. I went to school for that, bro. I was taught that. I worked at legitimate newspapers. I worked at legitimate TV stations. That's something I was taught, bro. So I think I have a good understanding of what your ethics should be if you're going to call yourself a journalist, bro.
Where do you see, so we'll get into it now, but where do you see, okay, outside of the Vince Russo coverage, where do you see the ethics being broached in such a way that you can't call these guys journalists?
Outside of Vince Russo? Oh, a million places.
Go ahead. Let's
never admit when they're wrong. Never retract anything. Never, bro. That's not a journalist. When you're a journalist and you're wrong, you retract it. Bro, you can't go on years and years and years and years and years with sources, bro. Okay, bro, you can't hide.
There's no other way to report wrestling, though. You can't. You know, there really isn't.
Yeah, there is other ways to report wrestling, and that's to be legit, get it from the horse's mouth, and say that the horse told you. That's not legit.
But in the WWE, which is the biggest game in town, if you were to do that, you'd be banned from.
But Matt, that's what I think you're missing this, Matt. That's why the WWE won't do it, because they're perceiving these guys the same way I'm perceiving them. That's how they're looking at these guys based on their previous conduct. That's why they've already drawn king. It wasn't like this way at the beginning, bro. It wasn't this way at the beginning. They had more respect at the beginning. But, bro, the years of bogus story and sources and being wrong and not retracting stuff and personally going after people, bro, after a while, you're going to be blackballed.
Is Bob Costas a journalist?
With Bob Costas, the sports guy?
Yeah. Would you call
him? Absolutely he is.
So Vince McMahon in the interview with him, the way he treated him, isn't that the way a journalist should be expected to be treated by the WWE, where he's berated and intimidated?
Oh, absolutely not. I was there for that interview, bro. I was embarrassed for Vince. I was standing right there.
Sidebar.
I was embarrassed.
So wait. Okay,
bro. I should have been I should have been Vince's cheerleader. Right. I was embarrassed. But bro, Bob Costas did not do anything that was unjournalistic. Vince McMahon did not want to answer his questions. He was not out of line. That's why I was embarrassed.
Isn't that indicative, though, of why a regular journalistic paradigm doesn't work with WWE?
No, bro. I don't believe so. No.
Let's real quick. Let's talk about this just for a second. So you were there during the interview.
Is this going to be our last show together for the record?
No, I think we're good. I'm good. If you're good, I'm good. You know, because it is just wrestling.
Now, why can't I have this conversation? You tell me, bro. Why can't I have this conversation with the Meltzer, with the Keller, with the Mitchell, with the Alvarez? Why can't I have this conversation with them? I don't hate them.
The reason is I'm not invested. It's who they are. I mean, when you're talking about this is who you say you are, but this is who I think you are. That is it's hard to have a conversation when you're saying, that thing you say about yourself, it's bullshit. But when you're talking to me and I'm trying to tell you what I see, I'm not as invested. Just like when I have conversations, I'll say out of one of these four very heated conversations about you, where it's almost like oh, Matt Kuhn, you're drinking the Russo Kool-Aid now, So I'm just not invested, I guess, is the main thing. But when you see this interview with Costas and McMahon, did you drive with him on the way home after it? Did you drive with him after it?
No, it was in the studio. That was in the studio. That was in Connecticut.
So what was Vince's reaction after it? Do you remember?
Oh, he was pissed off, of course.
So he wasn't like, I made a mistake. He was just like, fuck that little guy. Fuck that.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
He challenged him to a fight on HBO.
Bro. Matt, I was standing there embarrassed because Bob Costas did not do anything out of line. And bro, I would rather see a wrestling journalist do that than, well, my sources said. Bro, you got to look at the sources. Their sources are people who here are their sources, bro. Number one, they have the sources have an agenda. So there is somebody that the source wants to bury. Okay, so now the source has an agenda. Number two, the source wants to get themselves over. So if I give Dave Meltzer all this dirt, then Dave Meltzer is going to talk about me in a positive light. Come on, bro. Like that's the game. And if you're in the wrestling business, that's the game. There's no credibility with that, bro.
Here's something you might not have thought about with that. I agree. Wrestlers work. Wrestlers meaning they get you to believe their point of view. They want to get their perspective forward. A lot, especially old school wrestlers, they work. They will work Meltzer, or they try to work. Don't you think that these guys are hip to that? Like,
no,
not at all.
Let me tell you why, bro. They're competing with each other. They want the scoop. They want the scoops. Keller wants to get the scoop before Meltzer. Meltzer wants to get the scoop before, Shera. They all want the scoop. So the second anybody tells them anything, bro, they are reporting on it. Because they want the scoop. That's not journalism, bro. Journalism is you get a second source and a third source, and you back up this story, and without a shadow of a doubt, bro, I am not going forward with this story until I know it's absolutely true. That ethic does not exist at all with these guys, bro. Ryan Satin reported not too long ago, oh yeah, Vince was at the Arrow Lucha Underground, and somebody told me he referred to the Mexicans as wetbacks. You're a journalist, bro? That's Walter Cronkite would do that, bro?
I think with that particular situation with Ryan Satin, it wasn't right that he did that because it wasn't something that was confirmed by somebody else. And I think he said as much, after it. But he still said it publicly, Matt. You can't call these guys journalists when they do shit like that. When Brian Alvarez basically says Vince Russo had nothing to do with the Attitude Era, and everybody in their mother knows Vince Russo was the head writer of the Attitude. Now, bro, you've got zero credibility. You can't have zero credibility and call yourself a journalist. So let's talk about the Alvarez thing just for a second. I maintain that if you listened
Do you go to these Meltzer pajama parties too, Matt, when there's a big pay-per-view? Are you part of these?
I'm not part of those.
All right. Okay, go ahead.
But, I might go because, my son, let me tell you, when we were driving back from Jimmy's Seafood after Survivor Series, we were listening to Conrad and Tony on their show. And so we're basically waiting for Alvarez's show. He has a show called Brian and Vinny with Brian Verhey. With Vincent Verhey. And it's funny. It's entertaining. And I think if you listen to an entire episode of Brian Alvarez's show, you'll see what I like about him. But when he said his retraction to that, he said Vince wasn't the head writer. And he was speaking, as far as Vince is the head writer because Vince McMahon's in charge. But what came out was, it sounded like he was saying you weren't the head writer. He clarified it. He also said, what I know is, and he was a little offended by me when I DM'd him, and he said, I don't make stuff up. What I know is what I heard around the time from Dave and also what I know, from sources or whatever. But he wasn't looking to make stuff up about you. Yes.
Yeah, but bro, you are not a journalist when you publicly say things and you don't know. Matt, I could do shows 7 days a week on shit that I've heard. That's what these guys do, bro. Bro, I don't talk about anything that I don't know 100% factually. The fact that he's saying I heard or Dave heard Vince Russo wasn't the head writer, bro, right there, you're saying, bro, you don't know what the F you're talking about, bro. Whoever you spoke to, whoever told you that, you don't have a clue to what you're talking about. Now, bro, thinking that is one thing. Publicly saying it, you lose all credibility.
I'll say with the Alvarez thing, it's like a newscaster. I think you're going to just stop, don't laugh. But like if a newscaster does a commentary, like back in the old days of the news, there would be an opinion piece. Alvarez does have a show where he's a reporter, where he reports what's going on, Wrestling Observer Live, Wrestling Observer Radio. And then these shows are more like commentary shows. And when people pull clips out of him as if he's reporting, but he's really just saying a billion F-bombs and making a lot of jokes and trying to entertain people out there, it seems unfair to me to kind of take one quote out of context and say, this guy is a reporter, now he's not because he said this thing, because he's entitled to have an entertaining show, no?
I know. I definitely agree with taking things out of context. I mean, I do agree. I only hear the clips that the listeners send in. I don't listen to Brian Alvarez's show. I'm not going to listen to Brian Alvarez's show. I'm not going to listen to any of their shows because half of it is bullshit. So my time is more valuable than a disgruntled employee with an agenda being their source that they're reporting on as fact. I don't have time to waste like that, bro.
Well, that's our lead-in this week for Truth with Consequences. Let's get to the history of this. Now, we've talked about recently, especially Meltzer himself. He puts out, a lot of this stuff is said privately, but a lot of this stuff, Meltzer is not good about trolls. Like when someone trolls him, he responds. I was listening to Alvarez and Lance Storm talk about it and saying, man, Meltzer just answers the trolls. It's a mistake. But what is your history with Dave Meltzer? When did you first become aware of the quote?
Bro,
sheets?
My history with these dirt sheets, bro, goes back 27 years to 1991. Okay, bro? There was a guy that had a radio show on Long Island called Pro Wrestling Spotlight. The guy's name was John Arezzi. Okay, bro? At the same time, I had video stores on Long Island, and I ran a couple of unbelievable promotions with Jake Roberts, Brutus Beefcake, Demolition, where the line literally wrapped the shopping center plaza. Thousands of people, bro. We decorated the stores. I promoted it out the ass. Very successful promotions. Okay. So John Arezzi had a radio show. John Arezzi needed money. So John Arezzi came into my store, assuming I was a wrestling mark who was going to hand him money over for his show. Okay, bro, that was the MO. The bottom line was my stores were slowly but surely going out of business. And I knew I had to get in another arena. Okay, bro? So I enjoyed wrestling. And I figured if I could help him out with his show, this would be a way for me to maybe get my foot in the door in this business. So in a way, bro, we really both used each other if you want to be honest. Okay? John Arezzi was associated with all these guys. Back then, bro, it was only really Meltzer and Keller. Okay, but he was associated with them. He was one of these dirt sheet guys with a radio show and a newsletter, that type of a thing. Well, bro, at the same time Vince McMahon was going through this steroid trial, Matt. So, go back and check my dates, 1991. These guys all got together one day on a Resi show. It was a Resi. It was Meltzer. I met Meltzer back in 91. It was superstar Billy Graham. All these guys had rallied together, and bro, before my eyes, it became a witch hunt. All these guys wanted to be the guy that brought Vince McMahon down. They were on a mission, including Dave Meltzer.
Can we talk about the John Arezzi thing just for a second?
Yes.
The Arezzi thing is really kind of the backbone to a lot of the dislike of you from some of these guys. I hear it over and over again. And I just looked it up. David Bixenspan, who we know is a huge Vince Russo fan, is another writer with Deadspin. He says that you hijacked Pro Wrestling Spotlight. I've heard from other people privately that you did Arezzi wrong in that business dealing. I have no knowledge of that. Are you aware of those criticisms?
Yeah, we're at the point right now. This is where it started with the dirt sheets and their followers. So, bro, Arezzi comes to me for money. I'm paying for a Arezzi show, bro. Okay, bro, he had to pay for the space. They weren't giving him his show for free. Bro, I'm going to be honest with you. John Arezzi was a guy that was living with his mother. Okay, bro, the guy was living with his mother. He was broke. Okay, I had my businesses. I wanted to get my foot in the door. I was paying for Arezzi's show. The guy was broke. Well, bro, here's what happened. When all of a sudden I want to get my foot in the door, bro, I want to get my foot in the door because I'm a fan of the business. I'm a fan of the WWE. I was a fan of Vince McMahon Sr. Okay, bro? That's the door I wanted to walk in. What I didn't know was, bro, I went in the door of the dirt sheet world. And go ahead, Matt.
Well, with the dirt sheet thing, do you think that's an offensive term? Do you think they should be called dirt sheets? I don't think they like being called dirt sheets. Is that that's the term?
When you're getting rumors, hearsay, and you're taking news from disgruntled employees and workers with an agenda to push, it's a dirt sheet. It's no different than the National Enquirer. No different.
Okay. So I go in the dirt sheet door, bro, not knowing this world. All of a sudden, bro, it is crystal clear to me. These guys have an agenda, and that agenda is to take down Vince McMahon. So now, here's what I'm saying, Matt, as a logical human being. You guys are supposedly in the wrestling business, but you want to take down the guy who's responsible for the wrestling business. You want to take him down. So, bro, here's where the friction started with Arezzi. And, bro, this will all make sense to you. You will know what I'm telling you is absolutely right. So your contention is this world, these writers are looking to take down the WWE.
No doubt. In the meantime, Matt, okay, bro, the WWE, Steve Plantamenta, does that ring a bell with you?
It does not.
Steve Plantamenta used to be their old PR guy. Okay? Bro, all this is happening now with the steroid symposium, all this shit. Bro, these guys are on the Donahue show, Barry and Vince. All this shit's happening. The WWE now, they are going to put on a steroid symposium, and they are going to have the appropriate doctors there, the guys who, but they are basically going to tell their side of the story. Okay, bro? What do I say? I say, okay, we have to get their side of the story. Hear me out. This is 27 years ago. You're getting a little education here, Mr. Kuhn.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
So the WWE, all this shit's coming out, Donnie and all this stuff. We're going to put on a steroid symposium. We're going to have our doctors up there. Vince is going to be there. You're going to hear our side of the story. Guess what, Matt? Nobody from the dirt sheet world, including Dave Meltzer, felt it was important enough to go to that symposium. And why? Because coming directly from them, everything Vince McMahon says is going to be bullshit anyway. No, bro. You want it to be bullshit because you want to be the guy that convince you want to be the guy that commits Vince McMahon. Meltzer, the journalist, 27 years ago, didn't go to the symposium. Not important enough. I'm going to go on Donahue, bro. Okay, and I'm going to spew all kinds of crap, but I'm not going to hear that side of the story. Matt, does that sound familiar, bro? That was 27 years ago. So what did I do, Matt? What did I do? I called Steve Planamenta, who I did not know from Adam. Steve, my name is Vince Russo. I do a show with John Arezzi. I want to come to the steroid symposium. I want to hear your side of the story. You know what Steve Planamenta said to me?
What's that?
No problem, Vince. This is where it's at. No problem. Bro, I went to that. That's the very first time I met Vince McMahon, bro. 1991 was the very first time I went there. So I went to their symposium, and I heard their side of the story. From that point on, bro, as a journalist, I was done with Arezzi because it was clear to me, bro, you got an agenda. Just like they got an agenda today. You've got an agenda. It wasn't even important enough for you to go to the symposium. I am not going to support you anymore. I am not going to give you my money anymore. And that's when I went on my own and started my own radio show. But you see the spin? I did John Arezzi wrong. Bro, I was paying for his freaking show, and the minute I saw they had an agenda and they weren't being fair, I basically said, I am done with you. That's not the way I do business, and I went and I did my own show.
I've got to be honest. I think a lot of the disagreement in the world, not just this, is based on misunderstandings. A lot of them, I think, use the John Arezzi thing as a backbone, as a backdrop as to who they first saw Vince Russo as. And maybe they just got the spin from their buddy, John Arezzi, and they right away thought they knew who you were. Is it possible that this was just a propaganda thing by the WWE, and these people thought themselves too much as journalists to attend this propaganda?
Bro, whether it's propaganda or not, Matt, it all goes back to being a freaking journalist. You can't assume it's propaganda. You can't assume it's propaganda, and I'm not going to go. That's not a freaking journalist, bro. A journalist is... I'm on the Donahue show. I'm trashing Vince. He's supplying steroids to his wrestlers. I want to bring the emperor down, but I'm not going to listen to their side because I'm going to assume it's wrong. That's not being a journalist, bro.
Okay. So something, and when I say, okay, I'm not trying to cut off argument, or I just think that's as far as we're going to get with that. I think that's your viewpoint, and that's your truth, and that's, I mean, Matt,
that's you're a journalist. There are two sides to every story. But I'm not going to get one of them.
So to lead into to kind of piggyback on that, they're not going to listen to it. They're not going. They have a viewpoint. In your viewpoint, they want to bring down the big guy, bring down the WWE. Why would these people obsessed with wrestling want to do that? What is the game in that?
Because they're egomaniacs. Bro, look at their behavior at All In. Come on, Matt. I saw Come on, Mike Durbin, bless his heart, was there videotaping
What do you mean?
it.
I was there. What do you mean? What do you mean?
Oh my God, bro! They felt like they were the toast of the town, and everybody was yo. They love that shit. They love to be celebrities, bro.
Can I tell you?
They love that shit.
Can I tell you it wasn't really like that?
That's what I saw.
Okay, well, let me tell you what I saw.
Go
because
ahead.
my job was to lead these guys through the place, because it was packed full of fans, to lead them through to their signing area. They had longer lines than Eric Bischoff did in the same room.
Right.
But I didn't see them. They really, all four of them would have rather been anonymous. I'm telling you that right now.
We're gonna vehemently disagree with that.
Give you an example.
Yeah.
Wade Keller is a guy who took a newsletter to the success it has now and to what it is today. He started with a newsletter. He started by hustling. Dude, Wade set up outside of the autograph area, passing out business cards, trying to get people to listen to his podcast. He never said, "I'm Wade Keller." He never said, "This is for the torch." He was like hustling. I stopped him. I go, "Dude, must be like old times for you." He goes, "Yeah, man, this is what it comes down to. Me handing out newsletters back in the day." And once in a while, someone would go, "Oh, are you Wade Keller?" He goes, "Yeah." And they'd be like, "Nice to meet you." But literally, he was being anonymous, standing there handing out business cards, trying to get people to listen to his podcast. I didn't see that.
I saw ego, and I saw guys wanting to bring the emperor down. That was going to put them on the map.
Let's go to that.
That's what I saw.
So let's go to that. I think that the reason they wanted to bring down the big guy, the WWE, is because they kind of saw him as an evil, as what's bad for wrestling. If you look at even the after mags were very anti-WWF in the 80s. Wade is a AWA guy. Bruce is a Crockett guy. And of course, Meltzer is a guy who likes indie wrestling. Do you think they just said, this is the way we think, much like you, this is the way wrestling should be? And we think that steroids and ring boy things and all that stuff is bad for this business that we love so much.
It's going right with fast forwarding to 27 years, and it's everything that I'm saying today. Yes, Matt, you are right. Okay? They had an agenda, and they weren't acting like journalists. Back then, 27 years ago, the formula is the same. We're going to take down Vince McMahon because we don't like what he's doing with wrestling. Fast forward 27 years, we're going to take down Vince Russo because of what he thinks wrestling should be. And they will follow through at that agenda at no cost, bro. No cost, bro. Whatever they have to do to get that is not a journalist, bro. This was happening 27 years ago, and it was happening yesterday.
During your time with the WWF, were you aware of people stooging off, as they say, to the sheets?
Well, bro, here's the thing. I love this stuff. Bro, Howard Finkel every morning would put together a collection of the dirt sheets. And back then it was really Meltzer and Keller.
Torch and Observer, right.
Yeah, and he would put together a daily report. And again, bro, don't quote me. Somebody's going to say, "Oh, Vince, they didn't have a daily report. It was weekly." Whatever it was. Howard Finkel was responsible for this. And that used to get passed out to the top guys. I'm talking Vince, Bruce. I was on the outskirts, but I used to get one. JR there at the time, JJ Dillon, Vince McMahon. So basically it was to give these guys an idea of what the underground was talking about. And Matt, I've got to tell you, Were they right about some things where you knew, okay, bro, there's a mole in the hen house? Absolutely. But, bro, was at least half of it incorrect? Absolutely. And those were the things we would laugh at. Like, we literally would laugh at, like, where in God's name, like, are they getting this stuff from? So, yes, there was stuff that was true. They had a snitch, but half of it was absolutely inaccurate.
My viewpoint is that I tweeted this on Twitter yesterday at Matt Kuhn Music, was that people tend to cling to the negative. People have selective perception. When you buy a red car, all you see on the street are red cars. I think that the perception definitely from you guys was that it was bullshit. When you hear Bruce Pritchard reflexively say Meltzer's full of shit, you can tell that's something he said many times. But was there ever a point where you guys are reading this and you're like, all right, who the hell is snitching? Who do we need to cut out of the loop here?
Well, Matt, I got to tell you, bro, from my point of view, like, I read that individually. So, like, I don't know if those guys got together and discussed it. I don't know. I was not at that level at that time. So I don't know if they looked at that collectively. Bro, you want to hear a phenomenal story?
Go ahead.
I swear to God, bro, this is a true story. This happened at TNA. Okay? Dixie held a meeting. I do not bullshit you. Dixie held a meeting and put out a bounty of whoever could name the in-house snitch. She was going to pay money. As a shoot.
How quickly did Terry Taylor leave town?
Well, yeah, but you know what, bro? It wasn't Terry Taylor, hands down, bro. It was another guy that it could have been.
It was like, what's that sound? What's that car starting? Where's it going?
Yeah, no. But that's a true story, bro. She was going to pay. She was going to pay to get the snitch out.
Now, I have no firsthand knowledge of that. I just hear that about Terry Taylor, so I thought that was a fun joke. That is awesome that she put out a bounty. And we're going to get to Dixie because you told us a story I want to get into. We've already told it. We don't need to tell it again. But let me go back just a little bit. So this whole time, you are aware of the dirt sheets. You're aware, and I call them that because you call them that. I asked a wrestling journalist yesterday. I said, "Is dirt sheet offensive?" They said yes. So I'm trying not to use that. But
good. Well, then get some credibility, and we'll call you something else.
Then stop being a dirt sheet, right, Vince?
Yeah. Yep.
So when you left WWF,
let me first say this too, please, Matt, because before you had me leaving the WWE, all I read was that report. Okay, never read a Meltzer dirt. First of all, bro, I got to tell you something. I've got ADD. I could never ever read a Meltzer dirt sheet. Just the way that thing is laid out, like, bro, if there ain't pictures in it, like breaking shit up, I can't read it.
You know, so, that's the advantage. I mean, that really is a good criticism because a lot of people feel that Keller's got the presentation down, but Meltzer's, it's so dense.
But what I want to say is outside of those reports that Finkel distributed, I never read a Meltzer newsletter. I never read a Keller newsletter. What they were saying online, the dirt sheet influence had zero effect on my booking. I wasn't even looking at it. I was oblivious to it. I did not give it the time of day. It had zero effect of what I was writing when I was at the WWE.
You know, I think, Vince, the biggest dirt sheet moment in the history of the WWF when you were there was some jackass spoiled the Royal Rumble. I don't know if you know who that was, but somebody said Bret Hart is going to win the Royal Rumble.
Well, you know the story behind that too,
yeah,
right, bro?
I know the story. It's a great story because, and Pritchard also says it's the same story, that you just by the benefit of the narrative going on, you just said he's the only one who can win.
It was a no-brainer.
Right.
Yeah, well, I wasn't in those meetings. I didn't know who they were putting over.
Right, and so Vince Russo as Vic Venom said that Bret Hart, I believe Bret Hart's going to win, and here's why. And you made such a lock-solid case, they changed the booking.
Yeah, that's a true story. You see, me and Bruce are on the same page.
That's the best story ever. So, in the time that you're in the WWF, something happens, something changes. The internet happens. And then the dirt sheets, the wrestling journalists, they go mainstream. They go wide, completely wide distribution, like music. I put out a song, millions of people can hear it if it's good enough. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of ways to weed out one guy from the other guy from the other guy. We see an explosion in wrestling journalism where we start hearing names like Dave Scherer. We start hearing names like Bob Ryder. And you, when you left WWF, you kind of used the dirt sheets to get your story out, right?
I didn't use the dirt. I mean, I wasn't contacting anybody. They contacted me. I did not contact them. They contacted me.
Well, you weren't hanging up on them.
No, I wouldn't hang up on them today.
But
I mean, you know that.
So you had that same omerta. I call it the omerta, like the Godfather. You know, like the mafia. You had that same thing, like Bruce Pritchard. I believe 1,000% never gave a thing to the sheets.
I agree with that too. I do.
Bischoff hates the sheets as well. I'm not so sure, but it sounds to me from what he says and what Meltzer's recollection was, he has the same viewpoint too. I don't think Bill Watts would have, or Vern Gagne would have, or any of those guys. So you kind of had that loyalty too, like
absolutely,
fuck those guys.
Absolutely, yep.
And was it because they were spilling the secrets?
No, it was because they were wrong so often and reporting it as fact and not retracting stuff. The same reasons as today. You
go to WCW. You have no relationship with the dirt sheets at all? What is your viewpoint of them? Same thing?
Same thing.
But they're much more present in your life now, right? With the internet.
Oh, absolutely. It changed the business. Absolutely. No doubt about it. No doubt.
You never booked for the internet fan or the sheets in mind ever in WCW?
Never. I never read them, Matt. I never read. Matt, I was too busy writing the show. See, people get confused, bro. Here's where they get confused. I wrote reality, bro. I wrote reality. So if there was something really going on, I tried to play off of that. And, the dirt sheets were reporting on stuff that was really going on. I think that's where the confusion is. Bro, the best television is when it's based on reality. So like when I know Hogan and Kidman are going back and forth on online, when I know that's happening, bro, I'm telling that story because it's real. It's got nothing to do with playing to their audience. It's real.
As a wrestling fan who follows the background stuff more than the storylines, and as a father of a wrestling fan, as someone who knows you, and I hear this from the journalists as well, there's no better moment than a split second where you go, is this fucking real? Just that second, just that split second where you go,
I agree.
But that was never something you catered through the sheets or anything like that.
Not at all. Here's what I catered to it, bro. This is why I catered to that, Matt. Matt, wrestlers are not actors. They don't go to acting school, bro. They go to wrestling school and they learn how to cut a promo. They go to wrestling school. They don't go to acting school. So, bro, when you have something that's real and they go out and they play that in front of the camera, they're not acting. There is a shred of reality. So the fact that there's a shred of reality and it's coming across as real, it's easier for the audience to buy. The audience now believes it, bro. That's what I was playing off of.
So when you talk about what's real, we'll get to I just want to, anytime we have an interesting side thing we can talk about, I'd like to get your viewpoint because you do have a fresh, interesting, and also untethered viewpoint by being afraid of what people think. When you talk about reality, is there a line? Do you draw a line ever? That's too real. That's too fucked up. We can't talk about that.
Yeah, no. There is a line, bro. There is a line.
Dean Ambrose last night.
Oh, bad, 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 bad.
I've never seen a show where they backed off something in the same show before.
Bad. Did
you see what Dean did later? Where he said, where they saw the reaction, and he actually kind of backtracked a little bit on it. You can't say that, right? Would Vince Russo?
No.
Vince Russo's the worst guy in the world who booked terribly and booked everything in oblivion. You would never fucking say, "Hey, when you're bad things happen, so you're bad in this narrative, so you got fucking real leukemia."
No, bro. The case in point, bro, with me, like the biggest one was like, oh, geez, this would be great to do, but like I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Bro, the greatest one to do for me as a writer was Jeff, Karen, and Kurt. But it's almost like I've got to ask them. You know what I mean? Like I've got to ask them. I've got to ask them. This is money. I've got to ask them. Now, if any of those parties would have said no, I would not have tried to convince them. I would not have said, no, you've got to do this. If any of them felt uncomfortable, we would not have done that.
And, but just because Roman Reigns may have said it was okay, still doesn't make that's still a line you would draw. Right?
Oh, bro. Like a thought like that wouldn't even that wouldn't even enter my mind. I mean, no, bro, I would not have gone there, bro.
So let's get to what the criticisms are. Let's get to the first one, the easiest one to talk about, the easiest one to dissuade, but the most pervasive one out there. Vince Russo ruined WCW. It is a common, it's conventional wisdom at this point because it said so much. It's something I thought until I learned more about it. And it's something that now more and more educated people, more and more are coming around on it. I see it more on Twitter now than ever that people are going, wait a second. I didn't really dig the Vince Russo booking, but this is bullshit. Where did Vince Russo destroy WCW come from?
Well, Meltzer was just talking about it. Meltzer tweeted it out 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, but where's it coming from? 2 weeks ago, bro, he's still beating that drum that a writer bankrupted a company. Bro, just that quote alone, a writer bankrupted a multi-million-dollar company. That comment alone, you are not a journalist. You have no idea what the word journalist means. That is such a ridiculous statement, bro, that if you wanting me to refer to you as a journalist is freaking laughable.
Now we have an open invitation to any of these guys. I would love to get Dave on because I think we could really get some good work done if we had Dave Meltzer on. I believe that. I don't think you do. I don't think he does. But we have an open invite to any of these guys to explain this. But let's go deeper real quick. I said, where does it come from? You said, look what he tweeted the other day. Why does he believe that, or does he believe that?
Bro, I can't believe he believes that because that's ignorant, bro. I've never said Dave Meltzer's ignorant, but that's an ignorant comment. I can't believe he believes that because he'd have to be ignorant. I mean, bro, that's just flat ignorant.
Could it be a difference of opinion that just affects you personally? Meaning, is it possible that...
Well, what opinion, Matt, what backs that? Like, literally, like, what backs that? What backs that? Anybody can say anything. Again, bro, going back to the journalist, anybody can say anything. What backs that argument?
So for people who are listening who have not heard Vince Russo talk about this before, you might be in the minority, but just to explain, if you do think that, what you can do is research the money of WCW, research the ratings of WCW, research how long Vince Russo was in WCW and how long WCW was around. To say that someone who wrote the programming, who had someone was in charge of you, who could have struck down anything that you wrote at any time, to say that that person is responsible for a multi-million-dollar company that had been around for several years, that had lost money in most of those years, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It doesn't make sense. I don't.
Bro, anybody that worked at WCW, will basically tell you, bro, as soon as that deal was made with AOL, we knew AOL did not want to be in the wrestling business, bro.
Do you know who goes?
I remember having a conversation with Lex Luger. Lex, right around that time, bro, of the merger, there was like a big party or something, or this, that, and the other thing. Lex was invited to that party. And when Lex was at that party, Lex came back and said, these people do not want to be in the wrestling business. They do not like wrestling. Bro, Lex is out there. If anybody wants to confirm that story, I heard that story from Lex. But, bro, we knew, like, the minute that merger happened. Bro, that merger happened, Matt, right after I started. Right, like weeks, bro. Weeks after I started. And, like, we knew from everything we were hearing, AOL, like, they did not want to be in the wrestling business, bro.
I know somebody who was with WCW the entire time who has gone on record and said that AOL merger was a bad thing and doesn't have bad thoughts about you and says good things about you. And he was there the entire time. So if you want to impugn the word of Tony Schiavone, go ahead. Because Tony is a guy who doesn't give a shit, who will say whatever he wants to, and he's not beholden to anybody. And he will adamantly defend you as far as, especially with that criticism. If you went up to Tony Schiavone and said, Vince Russo ruined WCW, he would laugh at you.
Well, bro, you know who else has said that, like, publicly more times than once?
Who's that?
Flair. Flair has said that a minute. That there's a guy that was there forever. There was a guy that saw it all. And I mean, Flair has said that. But see, bro, that's the thing. For as beloved as Flair is, when he makes a positive comment like this about Vince Russo, he's lying now. Well, I mean, that's the mentality, bro.
Let's pretend for a second, because I think we have to, on your stance, because I think you really believe that these guys have it in for you 100% no matter what. But let's say they feel justified in criticizing you. What would those justifications be? Any idea?
It comes down to two things, Matt, if that's what you're asking me. Number one, our wrestling philosophies are different. Okay, bro?
I think that's part and parcel. I think that's all of it. I think that's 100%.
Okay, well,
but
I think there are two things. And you're going to disagree with the second one. There literally are people that hate me because of our difference in wrestling philosophy, which is a freaking joke, bro. It's a freaking joke.
Yeah, they're like fuck Vince Russo. He put Vampiro on a roof.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something, bro. Number two, and this is a smaller part of it, is envy. I have to believe, bro, Wade Keller is going on the show every week talking about what the promo should be. So I would have to believe there is a huge part of them that wanted to do what I did. I have to believe that, bro.
Let's dig into that a little bit. You know, I already disagree with that, and that I don't think it's jealousy, but that's fine. We can agree to disagree because we're freaking human beings on planet Earth who have families and jobs. But is it possible, not that they wanted to do it, but they just thought they can do it better, and that's the arrogance you speak of?
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. Absolutely.
So let's go back to the first
thing.
See,
that's the thing. Like, these guys forget. Like, I'm going to go back to Wade Keller because, bro, the most entertaining thing all week long is him doing these promos over, where, like, everybody really likes each other and we shouldn't say mean things to each other. It's comical. Here's, bro, what these guys never take into consideration. They never take into consideration, bro, the human factor. Bro, these guys and gals don't go out there and do whatever the hell you want them to do, bro. There's a negotiation. There's a conversation. Bro, there's a lot of psychology. Bro, you know how many times I had to work wrestlers to get out of them what I wanted because I knew what I wanted was right. Bro, there's an art to that. There's an art to working the boys to get what you want for the television show because you know they're not seeing the forest from the trees, and you know it's the best thing for the show. That's the factor, bro, that these guys will never, ever understand because every talent you're dealing with, bro, is different. So you've got to know the objections they're going to make before they even make them. And you've got to know with this individual, how am I going to overcome these objections? Because I've got to get them to do this and say this because it's the best thing for the show. It's those things that, like Wade Keller, will never in a million years understand.
Vince Russo comes in WWF, basically takes over creative, pisses off some people. Vince Russo goes into WCW. Other people who were there are overlooked and actually replaced by Vince Russo. And a lot of these people may or may not be in contact with these people, with the sheets. Do you think that the perception of Vince Russo a lot of times has been created by people who have an axe to grind against you?
Oh my God, bro. Are you kidding me? 99.9% of the time, bro. 99.9% of the time. Bro, I can name several guys that think they were let go of TNA because of me. I remember Jay Lethal, bro. I was great friends with Jay Lethal at TNA. After he left, him and I hadn't talked for a while. Then I think I saw him at a convention or something, and we had a conversation. He blamed me for him being released from TNA, and I'm like, Jay, money dictated everything TNA did. A lot of times, bro, I got blamed for guys being let go I had absolutely nothing to do with.
It's important to note that you never signed a check. You were never in charge of who got hired or fired, ever, right? In any of these companies?
Never knew what anybody was making, bro. I swear to God, bro, I can't tell you with all three companies what one guy was making one particular year. I had no idea. I was not involved in that, bro.
There was a time and point where Vince Russo and Ed Ferrara did a DVD interview with Wade Keller. I think it was called The Insiders or something like that. What was your experience with that? What was your experience?
Great. It was great, bro. I don't know how that turned into Vince Russo homophobe hater. I'd love to know. I'm very interested in knowing. I had a great experience doing that with Wade. He was respectful. We answered everything. There was no hostility. There was nothing. I had a wonderful time doing that.
So it's fair to say that what Wade in particular doesn't like about Vince Russo took place after that? Or do you think...
I would assume. I definitely would assume.
At that time, did you see him as a mark or did you see him as a journalist?
He conducted that interview like a journalist.
Fast forward to TNA, you've said several times that you know for a fact that Dixie Carter not only was using Wade's points point by point to help try to give you feedback, but also that she was in contact with Wade Keller. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep.
And how do you know for a fact that she was in contact with Wade?
I think she told us. And I mean, there's no other way we would have known as a fact unless she told us.
When you find this out,
I feel like, oh, bro, like, here's what I feel like. I'm doing this on my desk. I'm rubbing my forehead, and here's what I'm dealing with. Oh my God, like we've got to deal with this now, because the bottom line is they just don't understand. They're not the ones dealing with the boys. They're not the ones dealing with the personalities. It's not as easy as they think it is. That's what it really comes down to. These guys think it's easy because they've never done it, bro. Bro, when Bill Goldberg is sitting in front of you, bro, and wants to literally beat the shit out of you. That is not easy, bro.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I can imagine you don't know what that situation's like. Have you ever found that they provided a good service? Do you ever feel like that's something that they contribute to the wrestling industry, or do you see them?
No, I don't, bro, because it's not fair. It's an agenda. It's not fair. They're never looking at the other side. They're never looking at, why did Vince Russo do that? They're never looking. Bro, I remember the highest rated segment in the history of freaking wrestling, period, was This Is Your Life, Mick Foley and The Rock, an 8.1 for that segment that had nothing to do with wrestling. And Meltzer freaking buried it the next day. And, bro, I even believe he went as far as to say, I will never watch WWE again. I believe that's what he said. I'm not going to say that 100%. I know it's out there. Bro, an 8.1 rating, the guy freaking buried it. That tells everybody, bro, your mind is closed, and unless it's a certain way, you're not going to like it. Period. End of story.
So I think This Is Your Life is a great epitome of the differences of you and the people that have criticisms. You can't see.
Bro, I'll give you another epitome. You might not even know this one.
Go ahead.
The week before Ed and I started writing WCW TV, the rating was a 2.6. Okay?
For WCW.
The first week after that 2.6, Ed and I took over, the rating was a 3.3. Do you know what was in that 2.6 show?
I do, actually, because I work on a show with Vince Russo, but why don't you tell us anyway?
A 3-segment match between Bret Hart and Chris Benoit as a tribute to Owen Hart. That show drew a 2.6. When Ed and I came aboard, that next show drew a 3.3.
So I also
that's significant. That's significant, bro.
I also think that is a significant difference, because I think for you look at the numbers and you go, well, that match didn't draw. And I think that a lot of fans, let's say some fans, and let's say the writers, look at that and said, man, if word catches on, people tune in and see this go on, it can grow. It can become something else. But you look at that 2.6 of the Benoit and Bret Hart match and you go, people aren't interested.
Yep.
And that's a difference. That's the difference in wrestling philosophy. Going back to This Is Your Life, can you see why someone might not like that segment? Can you possibly fathom why?
Outside of grown men who believe wrestling's real? No, I can't. No. Outside of those types of people, no.
So I'll give you my viewpoint. I was disappointed in This Is Your Life. And I'll tell you why. Because I thought something else was going to happen. The anticipation, there was no payoff. Like, the whole idea for me is, I think Rock is going to turn. Or I think Mick Foley is going to get tired of it. But it just ended. And so I think, for me personally, and I think Meltzer probably, the fact there was no payoff to it was disappointing. But for you, it was about the entertainment of that moment and the rating.
Yeah, God, Matt, I've never watched that back. I only saw it that night. I'm going to go back and look at the finish of that. I don't remember how it finished. And you know what, bro? If I look at the finish now, I might tell you the same exact thing, or I may have liked the finish for particular reasons. But I'm definitely going to go back and look at that.
For me as a fan, I just thought, at the time, you see this earnest, narrative-wise, the earnest character of Mankind Mick Foley trying everything to be friends with this guy, and The Rock just turning down every single bit of it, and then you expect something's going to happen. That's what I looked at it. I looked at, as a fan watching it, as This Is Your Life, the means to an end. But for you, I think you were looking at it as like, this is something entertaining for the fans to close the show out.
Yeah, entertaining and just another page in the book.
So now we're in 2018. I want to circle back on the Mark thing really quick. When your fans use it to describe other fans, don't you think, and those fans don't identify themselves like that, don't you think it's an insult to them?
Matt, I cannot control what my fans do or say. I mean, I cannot control that. And a lot of times, like, I'll read stuff that they do and they say, Matt, a lot of times, bro, I will DM people because I follow a lot of people. Bro, can I tell you what my rule of thumb is?
Go ahead.
If you support the show, if you put over, oh, great episode of Truth with Consequences, or if you support me, I follow you.
I've definitely seen that to be true so many times over the last couple months. I get followed by somebody I don't know, and it says followed by Vince Russo.
Yeah, so I follow a lot of people because if you support me, I follow you. And because, bro, I follow a lot of people, you have no idea, bro, how many times I DM people and I say, bro, just stop. Like, stop. Hit the mute button. Whatever you have to do, just stop. Bro, I do that on a daily basis. But I got to tell you, bro, I think those people are getting hot over the same things that upset me. I've just learned, bro, you're never going to win with these guys. You know, in my opinion, Meltzer is doing the same thing in 2018 that he did in 1991. Like, what's the freaking point, bro? What's the point? I mean, Meltzer put that tweet out about I bankrupted a company. I didn't tweet him back. What's the point, bro? There's no freaking end game.
It was two companies, two different companies.
Yeah, two different companies. But these guys, like, they don't have the history and they react right away. I can't be responsible for that, but I will tell you, like, 9 times out of 10, when I see it getting out of hand and I can DM them, I let them know about that.
And I'll address that shortly, or I'll address that in short. Is it fair to say there are thousands of people in the Russo's brand? That's fair to say, right? Thousands?
Oh, yeah.
Thousands. And it's not a work. It's not bullshit. So we're talking about a very small segment of the Russo's brand that sometimes puts a bad name on you, because I read it on the Observer board. I read it 20 times that said his fans, or he has his fans. So when the Russo fans, of which we have a very loyal contingent who follow the show and help and promote the show, and I personally was surprised at the amount of dedication and loyalty, and I'm grateful for, but a very small portion of them who take up fake accounts, don't put their name and face behind it, and really make you look bad and hurt our show, I will sometimes speak up. And so I would just like to say to any of those people out there, play chess, not checkers. If you were asking Dave Meltzer to come on this show and you respond with, yeah, you dumb jackass, get on this show, that ain't helping anything. Do you see my point with that, Vince?
Oh, absolutely. You did that this morning and I saw it and I got it. Absolutely, I did. Yep.
Is there any possibility you could ever see these writers in a different light? Let's say that we invite someone on the show and they come on. Is there any possibility that maybe you could understand them a little bit more, or are you pretty much sure you know what you know about them?
Of course, there's a possibility, bro. There's a possibility that there's something I'm not seeing.
I think your biggest issue is that you think they completely come off authoritatively and arrogantly. Is that correct?
Oh, bro, that's one of the biggest pet peeves of mine, bro. They come across, bro, like they know everything. That's a big pet peeve. I don't come across that way, bro. They come across like their opinion is truth. They never phrase it as being their opinion. They phrase it as our opinion is fact. Huge pet peeve of mine, bro. Just say it's your freaking opinion. Dave, when you're saying This Is My Life sucks and 8.1 was the rating for the segment, bro, it doesn't suck. It's your opinion that it sucks. If that many people watched it, bro, it didn't suck. But, I got to say this about Dave, bro, because, I listen to him every week. bro, he's saying more and more and more, especially about 205, how these matches are great, but nobody cares. He's starting to say that, and I've been putting him over for saying that. I've been saying, bro, that's what I've been telling you for years. You may think the shit is great, but the masses, the typical casual fan, does not give a shit about this. He's been saying that more and more, and I've been putting him over for it.
2018, we did a Cornette show. We did a Bischoff show. And we said, this is the end. But we can't do that here, can we?
No, hell no. I would not do that here. No, because they're, Matt, and you see that, bro? You yourself say that knowing because they're not going to stop. You say that knowing they're going to continue the behavior.
Let's take a couple sides of this. If we say everything Vince Russo is saying is bullshit, and we're going to address that in a second, they're still not going to stop. If everything you're saying is correct and true, there's still, there's not a big, huge, like lots of material on Vince Russo coming out. But if Dave Meltzer rattles off 20 ad hominem tweets about you, I think personally, as much of a fan of the Observer I am, as much as I might like him, I think it's unfair to expect you not to say anything back. I think it's unfair to say you can't defend yourself because unlike Bischoff and Cornette, people look at these guys with credibility and authoritatively. So what is your plan to reacting to it? Being that you are who you are and you believe what you believe and you believe they're out to get you, you believe they're trying to lie about you. What is your modus operandi for reacting to these things that people put out about you?
Bro, it's like, first of all, even with the Meltzer tweet of last week about, I bankrupted 2 companies. I mean, bro, how I'll say it again. When I was head writer of TNA, we were up to 2 million people. They're down to 100,000. How Dave Meltzer equates that to me bankrupting TNA, like, is just it's ignorance, bro. It's pure, and I don't believe Dave is that stupid. So if he's not that stupid, because there's no way in the world he could believe I had anything to do with freaking TNA finances, then he's got an agenda, and the agenda is to bury me. Bro, I'll never stoop that low. I'm not, and anybody can read my tweets on social media. I am not going to personally attack these guys. I'm not going to do it. But, bro, I will tell you 9 times out of 10, there are respectable people and people who were there who can corroborate, I can never say that word, who could back up everything that I say. There's always somebody there who can say, yeah, I was there, and he's right.
When we look at the creative ideas, that's another thing that you're criticized for, that your creative ideas helped ruin wrestling. The Judy Bagwell in a pole match, and Viagra in a pole match, and David Flair, and Choppy PP, and all these things that Vince Russo took wrestling in a different area and that it ruined wrestling. It ruined companies. It put it in the bad position it's in today.
Well, bro, like I said, here's the bottom line. My job was to get as many people to watch the show as possible. Bro, that's the job of any television writer. I don't care what the show is, bro. The show could be Lost. The show could be Seinfeld. It doesn't matter, bro. The show could be Dancing with the Stars. It doesn't matter. Your job as the writer is to get as many people to watch the show as possible. And that's what I did, bro. And I think I was successful in all 3 companies. There is no doubt in my mind, if they would have left Ed Ferrara and myself alone at WCW, no doubt in my mind, we could have got WCW back in the game. No doubt in my mind. Highest ratings ever at TNA, highest ratings ever at WWE. Okay, bro? I did my job. If Vince McMahon were to hire me tomorrow and we got back to the structure that we had in 1999, what I'm talking about, bro, is you don't have 80,000 writers. You don't have 80,000 people. This one's in charge of SmackDown and this one's in charge of this and this one. I'm talking about the simple structure of two writers writing the show, Vince McMahon having your back, no bullshit, no politics, no doubt in my mind I would be able to return those ratings to where they were at the end of the 90s. No doubt in my mind.
I don't like to bash WWE on my Twitter or on Wade's show, even when Wade does. And I'll tell you why. Because everybody does it. It's just old hat, you know? And I think sometimes it comes across as you can't have an effective show if you're saying this is great, this is great. You know, you need to be critical. But I don't know anybody right now who enjoys Raw. Like, I literally don't know anybody who's saying, I think some people enjoy SmackDown, some people enjoy the pay-per-views, but I really don't know anybody out there who's defending Raw. Are you ever seeing that?
No, and how am I responsible for that? It's nothing like the show we wrote. Nothing like the show. Absolutely nothing like what we wrote. So how am I responsible for their freaking product today?
I asked earlier, we're going to bring this show home. We're going to close it now.
I got to say this before we bring it home, and don't cut this out.
Okay, it's not cut out.
If you're listening to this on Westwood One, I'm telling you as a shoot, bro. I'm being 100% honest with you. If you're listening to this on Westwood One, bro, you got. I'm telling you, bro, you got to get Patreon, because everything I said in the 3 hours that Matt and I have been doing this show today, I want to be heard. Like, I don't even want to know what Matt cuts out of the show, because nothing should be cut out. And I want you guys, if you really want to know the truth and the history and the roots and the foundation, and you want to know it all to understand it, you've got to hear this interview in its entirety. Guys, please try out Patreon, patreon.com/Russo Coon with a K. TWC. You're doing yourself a disservice, bro, if you just listen to the edited version.
In editing, I'm trying to make the best show I can for the Westwood One, but also we also want to have some extra added content for Patreon, and it's something I'm learning, honestly, Vince, because I find myself editing less and less. And one great thing about the Patreon is you get the show early. Today's Tuesday. I'm going to make sure we get this show to the fans on Tuesday. This is, what is that, 5 days before the show comes out?
5 days, bro.
So,
yep.
You know, and that's the effort we're making. Also, we know that some fans have wanted the video, and I haven't always done the video, so make sure the video goes up every single week.
Yeah, and just edit out like your parts. Don't edit out anything I say. Just when Matt Coon talks, edit that.
You know, the thing I edit out the most, honestly, is when you make the points you made in this show. You know, and you do it almost every show. Like, it's like, that's what the Dirt Sheet guys don't understand. That's what I'm like, clip.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm bad at that. You're right. No, that's good. That's good, Matt. That's why you edit the show.
But to bring it home, we just said the Sheet guys, the writers, are not going to let it go. It's not happening. So you have extended the same invitation to anybody who criticizes you, whether it be Mike Johnson, Ryan Satin, the four we talk about, Bruce, Brian, Dave, and Wade, or anybody is invited to come on the show and have a respectful conversation and get their view across, and also hear what Vince Russo has to say about what they've been saying for all these years. That's correct, right? Open invitation.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, bro, because let me tell you something. I'm going to prepare them. If anybody steps up to the plate, I'm going to prepare them. Okay, because I don't want to dig in an early hole. Okay, so I'm going to prepare you. Here's the first thing I'm going to ask you. It's this simple, bro. Here's the first thing I'm going to ask you. I don't care who it is. Dave, Wade, Bruce, Alvarez, I don't care. Why is it that you hate me and I don't hate you? I don't know how you vehemently hate somebody you don't even know. So I'm going to need that explained to me first.
Well, I don't want to put too many conditions. If that's your first question, that's your first question. And, we'll let them ask their first question too, whatever it is. I need you.
Why did you put the belt on David Arquette? That'll be the question, Matt. That'll be the question.
Okay. So I have been talking off and on with Bruce Mitchell about this, about coming on. I know him as a good person who cares about the world and cares about kids and wants the world to be a better place. And that's why it's so hard for me to imagine, him as you see him. But what he has told me is that he has not come on your show because he has not been invited. So I would like could you extend, I know that you feel you invite them every week, but they don't listen.
But you know what it is, Matt. Bruce Mitchell, you're invited on my show, okay, bro? And Bruce, stop it. I've done it a million times. Will you stop? You're Bruce Mitchell. You are invited on my show. But Matt, I'm going to be honest with you. With Bruce Mitchell and like even Brian Alvarez to some extent, bro. I feel like I'm getting Robin. Yeah, bro. I don't want Robin. I want freaking Batman. I want Dave Meltzer and I want Wade Keller. That's what I want, bro. I don't have the beef with Bruce Mitchell that I have for Wade Keller. So it's like, bro, I don't want Bruce Mitchell is going to come on my show. I don't want to talk about Wade Keller with Bruce Mitchell. I want to talk about Wade Keller to Wade Keller. That's why, bro, like when Pritchard and Conrad buried my book, Conrad was going to come on my show and Bruce wasn't. And I said, no, Conrad, I don't want to talk about Bruce to you. I don't want to do that, bro, because I'm right where I started.
Well, I will say that Bruce has his own viewpoints, has his own thing, has his own statements, has his own feelings about what you've done. And I think if he came on, I think he would get you what you wanted, quite honestly. I think you both would. So I'll extend it personally. I know Vince has as well. I know you feel maybe he's Robin to Wade's Batman. But at the same time, we're inviting anybody who has ever
we are inviting anybody, but I just, it's like I know the conversation is going to turn to Wade, and I'm right back where I started.
Well, we could make it short, and we could get to a couple points, and we could bring up some things he's told me or things that beliefs he has. And we'll see how it goes if it happens.
That's fine. I mean, that's 100% fine.
But at the same time, this is Truth with Consequences. We hope you enjoy the show. Please give us feedback. If you like this kind of show, we can do this kind of show. If you want a kind of show like we've been, some of them have been where we peel the curtain back on things that have happened in the history, let us know you like those shows. We'll have polls up. We put a poll on our Patreon. You did not have to be a Patreon to vote, and this was the one that won. I think, this is something you wanted to do. I wasn't so sure about it. What did you think of the show we did today? Is there anything else you want to say?
If you're going to say something, bro, no, you gotta back it up. Like, just don't have just don't feel like I can say things. I could say anything because nobody's going to double check or nobody's going to triple check. Because, bro, if you're doing things like that are not true, you could be hurting people.
I like closing out the shows when you talk about Cornette and Bischoff and other things where you said you just want peace. Let's say no one appears on the show. Things go on the way they have been. Convince Russo, find peace with that.
No, there's never gonna be peace with these guys, bro, because of what they do. I don't have a respect for what they do. Now, if they change their ways, could I change my view on that? Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. It's never too late